So I'm not going to lie. When we started Keystone Sessions, so this is week 6. When we started Keystone Sessions, and I think, Abdul, I think you remember, we tried to get this panel weeks ago and tried to get this thing started weeks ago. This was one I circled on my calendar because I was most excited about. And I'm not going to lie, when I was playing Storagetown Clash last night for 2 hours, I was thinking about this panel and how important it was to me personally. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. I'm excited to dig into a little bit about the industry in general. What's happening with esports overall, but most importantly, like what's been happening here in Kansas City. It's been impressive to watch, and I'm anxious to get the perspectives of, I think, 3 different organizations, 3 different groups that are kind of tackling that challenge here in Kansas City. So I want to start off by giving you guys an opportunity to introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about your organizations, kind of what you do, what your focus is, and then we'll kind of dig into some of the questions. So LJ, we'll start with you if you want.
Yeah. My name is LJ Brown, co-founder and chief gaming officer at Kansas City Pioneers. We're the premier esports organization for the city, and we focused on a range from content creation to competitive gaming. And we are Kansas City founded and globally driven. We have teams we have a Rocket League team in Australia. We have a Halo team here in North America. And we're also here competing in Splitgate as well here in North America. So super excited to be here and happy to be here with these great guys here.
Hello, my name is Stu Keener, one of the co-founders and COO of Level Up Arena, based here out of Kansas City. We are a dedicated esports facility focused on training and youth education as well as competition. Located inside Hy-Vee Arena. We just relocated from Overland Park to Kansas City. So it's exciting to actually be a part of the actual city and the city's growth, being as close to downtown as we are. So we just focus on hosting those events here locally and giving the local community an opportunity to compete in esports.
My name is Abdul Rashid Jahaya. I represent a couple different companies. I wear my favorite jersey. This is where it all started in Kansas City. Every company has its own jersey, but Local Legends is where I got started with my esports career here. So about 7 years ago, I started a company by the name of Local Legends. We're best known for our video game truck, but we also have an academic curriculum we've taught in 23 schools in the greater Kansas City area, where we teach youth how to take traditional career skills that they can transfer laterally across different markets. So if your kid wants to be a content creator or they want to start an esports organization, we teach them how to still make their parents and guardians happy while doing what they actually want to do. And we speak to them at their level. We don't just have a collegiate, high school, junior high school, elementary school curriculum. We speak to the students at their understanding. Most of them understand more of this than we understand anyway, so it's easy. 3 years ago, my company was acquired by a larger esports company by the name of Unified, formerly known as Midwest Esports. They are a white labeling esports event service company, so we put on large-scale esports events across the region. Our goal is to aspire champions. So folks like LJ and the great team over at the Pioneers, we try to provide opportunities for them locally and across the nation to come show how great they actually are. And then lastly, top of the year, I invested in the Level Up organization and became the 4th co-owner of Level Up, the dedicated esports facility, the largest esports facility in the region. So a lot of things, but at the core, it's all video games. And I just try to show Kansas City the different ways that you can excel in this industry.
So I think it's appropriate you're sitting in the middle seat based on what you just said. So one of my questions is going to be is how much work do you guys do together? But you kind of touched on that a little bit. How would you define kind of collaboration across the organizations? And when I think about Kansas City in general, and I ask this of a lot of different industry players that get up here across different segments, what does collaboration look like in Kansas City versus other cities that you might be a part of? So I don't know if you guys each want to take a run at that or if anybody has a perspective.
Yeah, I know for Level Up specifically, we operate as a space and we live and thrive off of community. And what we've really kind of developed over the last year and a half since we started opening is opening our doors to the likes of the Kansas City Pioneers and other organizations even in the area to utilize our space and use our space to help build their own individual communities as well. Outside of also, we focus on the youth aspect, which is not entirely available to a lot of the local communities and schools. So it gives them an opportunity to also utilize our space as that community. So what we see is, as Kansas City grows in this esports industry, that community effort is really what is needed to take it to that next level.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, as far as these two guys right here, they do a lot of great work in the community, for gaming and esports. And Abdul, I've known Abdul for years. I remember the Madden tournaments he used to throw on the truck for Eric Berry back in the day. When I was back in high school, middle school, and so these guys do great things to help the youth really understand what it is they're trying to do and what they're trying to become. And that eventually, leads to, a fan base for us, here in Kansas City. They lead the way there, and, eventually these kids have, a pro team to come and root for and want to be a part of. So yeah, big thanks to these guys. Sure.
Yeah, so I come from the esports professional side. There's professional esports athletes and there's esports professionals. So the individuals who are putting together the businesses or the organizations that are supporting the industry. I'm on the for-profit side, so money is the motive on our end. The money we bring in, we pass it right along to the community to put on events, but to provide opportunities for prestige, scholarships, and dollar-based grand prizes. But from my aspect of it, collaboration is key. And it comes from the community basis. Anyone who wants to work by themselves can have 100% of a dollar, or you can work together and have 50% of $1 million. We're all working to get our piece of this esports pie, whatever it may look like, coming down from the publishers or whatnot, and what we can actually obtain. But without working together, none of us are going to survive. All of my success that Kansas City thinks I've had is all built on the back of communities. I'm fortunate that I've been able to work with everyone in every community in the esports industry because I've needed them. And because they've answered my call, I'm always there to answer their call too. So there's really nothing I've done in this industry that I haven't done without the help of the greater Kansas City area and beyond.
How does that measure against the other communities that you've done events in, or like how do you rank Kansas City in terms of what's happening with esports now?
We're top tier. I am fortunate that I just stepped out of a leadership position. I was formerly the chairman of the Kansas City Sports Commission's Esports Coalition, where I was able to reside over about 74 individuals that represented 24 different esports and related industry companies in the greater Kansas City area. Kansas City is a city that has some of the greatest esports organizations in the nation, from the largest high school-based esports league to the most successful college-based esports organization. We have a top tier esports organization, the Kansas City Pioneers, that were built right in our backyard. Unfortunately, we're a city that struggles to tell our story, but there is no city in the nation that hasn't heard of Kansas City and what we're doing. We are just all working on how we're going to establish our footing as we expand. But none of us are doing anything without each other at this point. But there's no city that can compare to Kansas City's esports.
Yeah, rest assured, you're not the only industry that has trouble telling the narrative, telling the story outside of Kansas City. So it's not unique to esports, but I feel your pain.
So just some to touch on or expand on what Abdul was talking about, just in the last 3 to 6 months, Kansas City has seen HCS obviously came to Kansas City. That was Kansas City's first esports major event that we've seen here that was hosted at Bartle Hall. That same week, we at Level Up, we hosted what we call Lua, which is our kind of Smash Brothers Ultimate series that we do, all built by the local community. And that was, just shy of it also being a major and on the list of countries across the world as being one of the largest events so far of 2022. Even just recently, this past week, we hosted an event with that same Smash community that it was the 4th largest event in the world for that week on the same list of countries like Japan, Costa Rica, and another event here in the States. And then obviously with everything that Unified does with their premier circuit all the way, across the nation, Kansas City is providing top tier events and esports events that is relative to the entire world.
Yeah. Just to piggyback off of Stu there, I think that Kansas City, like Abdul said, we're top tier. I think the success that we've had as a city has been a little different than some of the other cities, but I think it's been more authentic. I think that esports has been carried on the back of the average person here in Kansas City, whereas a lot of these other cities are, their esports industries are ran by huge corporations, your Jerry Jones, your Robert Krafts, your Stan Kroenkes, and over in LA running all the esports orgs out there. And I think that's part of our story, is how unique the industry is here. Back to Stu's point, Halo came out here for their world tour for the first time ever in Bartle Hall, and before that we threw a big pre-LAN event where we invited the best Halo teams in the world out to Kauffman Stadium. We did a huge boot camp out there, and it just blew up all over the internet, because it's like, how are gamers gaming in Kauffman Stadium and practicing for this LAN event. And John Sherman, we did a press conference with him, and it was just amazing just to see all the hard work come together. And like Abdul said, that's on the backs of everybody that's putting in the work here in Kansas City for esports.
So as the professional franchise, I guess, if you will,
100%.
in Kansas City, what is it about those other cities where you see people like Kroenke or Kraft or, these major sports owners who are investing in those franchises? Why is that happening here yet?
We're a small city.
Do we need to ask them? Not you, yeah.
We're in the Midwest, we're typically last for a lot of different things. I think that we end up perfecting them, and I think we do it better than a lot of other cities eventually. But, we're coming around, and that's why it takes, hard work from guys out there and these guys to really put an industry on their backs and, be progressive with those industries and with their work. I think we'll eventually make it up there. We had the support from the Chiefs, and I know Mahomes is always playing Call of Duty and video games, and we just got to create a little bit more buzz here for sure.
I heard a stat. I don't know what the stat is, I'm gonna do a little fact check here with you guys. So viewership is higher in esports than in any other traditional sport. Is that right? Do I understand that to be correctly?
With the exception to the NFL, I believe, but everything else it tops. Yep.
And the NFL has a major. They're making major investments in it. Before we jump from the last question, our local franchise team have all made investments in the esports industry. It just hasn't been directly aligned with a professional organization like the Kansas City Pioneers just yet. But we've hosted events with the Royals, with Sporting KC, with the Kansas City Chiefs, and we've all done events with their top tier players, from Eric Berry to Miko Harmon to Tyreek Hill to Patrick Mahomes. As well as the Sporting KC players. We're a city that has a professional EMLS player that's right out of Kansas City, Kansas. But when it comes to viewership, pre-pandemic, our last live event was the Super Bowl. We Unified went down to FIU and hosted a Madden tournament with the NFL Alumni Association, and we had tons of previous pro players that sat there with those youth and played games and showed them how they can become equally successful with video games as they have been with traditional stick and ball sports. And then they invited us out to the Super Bowl, which is not something I could ever afford out of my own pocket. But it's those kind of opportunities that come from the viewership that comes from organizations like Kansas City Pioneers and what they're doing with their content creators and their players as well, that show those traditional players there is some synergy between us in our traditional sports and what's considered an e-sport.
Stu, I want to ask you a question about place, right? So you guys are a facilities-based company, facilities-based organization. Talk to me a little bit about the founding story. I understand you guys started in Overland Park in a very different layout than kind of what you have now. Talk to me a little bit about the founding story, how that got started, and then talk to me a little bit about the move to Hy-Vee Arena.
Yeah, absolutely. So myself and one of the other founding partners, Josh Gar, we both met each other. It was about 12 years ago, actually through video games. We started competing professionally in Call of Duty. A mutual friend of ours kind of hooked us up together because we were both good at Call of Duty. Like, hey, let's play a team together, and kind of branched out from there. Me personally, even going back farther, when I grew up in Southeast Kansas, small town Oswego, I didn't have internet till I was 18 and out of the house. So I'd never even experienced kind of online gameplay or what real competition looked like outside of a hometown festival Guitar Hero competition that I entered in when I was a kid. So esports was very new to me when I moved closer to Kansas City and started to experience it, and it just immediately grabbed hold. And so as I started to compete and get that kind of pro experience and expand my career, I had to choose eventually to choose a traditional career path or stay with esports, and I went out and pursued a career in warehouse logistics. As time went on, 10 years, Josh and I kind of reconnected, and we start talking about those what ifs. What if we had stuck with it. What if all this, and those what ifs started to turn into kind of solutions to those problems that we had when we were gaming as kids and learning how to excel in the esports industry. So just started to put our heads together and slowly came up with the idea of Level Up. What if we had a space to go compete on a regular basis? What if we had a training facility? What if we had coaches? What if we had all these other things that we just had to do ourselves in this space? And that's kind of where the idea of Level Up really came to, was taking all those what ifs we could have had done with our career had we had Level Up ourselves, and just providing that problem and giving a solution for this next generation of gamers. And so basically when we were ready to launch Level Up is when also the pandemic kind of hit and COVID hit. So what better idea to start a brick and mortar style business in the middle of a pandemic? Yeah, why not? And so we pulled the trigger on it when we thought it was safe and made sense to do so. And just landed in a spot in Overland Park that had the space available and all the equipment that we needed, and just kind of ran with it. So after about a year and a half, looking at the options and what we were doing down south of Kansas City, we really wanted to be a part of kind of like the Kansas City culture. Overland Park is, as much of it's a metro, it's not truly Kansas City, and so through talks with Hy-Vee Arena and what they were doing out there and all the traffic they were bringing, it was a big demographic that we needed to hit and target that they were already bringing out. So it was a perfect fit. They wanted us to move out there with them. And so again, we just pulled the trigger. It was what was right for the business, what was right for, we felt, the community as well, to continue to provide esports and give that next level of security for parents and security for gamers, and help bridge that gap of traditional esports or traditional sports and esports, and helping that be synonymous in conversation.
Abdul, you mentioned you're for profit. You emphasize that. I appreciate that. Talk to me a little bit about the business model behind esports. Like, how's the money flow into the sport? How does this operate from a monetary perspective?
There are tons of business models. They all work and they all don't work. It is depending on what day of the week and what the publishers do and what the players want. It depends on who's doing well and who's not doing well. For me, from the event services side, we travel around the nation. So we go out and find a space that has at least 15,000 square feet of continual space, the internet, and the power necessary to actually run a live event. But we'll bring out all the PCs, all the consoles, build a main stage, and feature up to 21 different competitive titles over 2 or 3 days. So the business model on our end is generally, when we work with CBVs in these different cities, they put a dollar value on each player. So if we have a live event that is multi-day long, outside of the locals, anyone who travels in is worth probably $125 to $175 a person, because they're going to stay a hotel night, they're going to eat 1 or 2 meals inside that city, and that's going to stimulate the local economy there. For us, we bring that entertainment factor and that for the city, and then we bring that opportunity for those players, and we bring that awareness for those parents and guardians that are wondering why their youth are spending countless hours playing these games. So the business model for us is generally, we'll come to your city, we'll bring this phenom that is the esports industry to it, and if you have these economic incentives, or you have financial backing to book out one of our events, and they're not cheap at all. We, based off of the amount of money you put on a prize pool, we can bring people in your city, in your region, or across the country to your city. And it's worked over and over again. And generally, we will align with cities that have a JV or varsity team as well. And then we usually will align with the local amateur or professional organization as well to say, hey, come out and do some exhibition matches so that we can signal boost you in your city and give you an opportunity to show how great you are. That's our model specifically, but I have my hands on a lot of different gaming companies. So like the Game Truck, which is probably my favorite of them all. We provide
Describe the game truck. Like, what do you do?
I've done fight a million times. So the Local Legends Gaming Video Game Truck is a 24-foot long climate-controlled self-powered trailer that allows us to take the competitive or casual gaming experience just about anywhere. As long as we don't have any snow on the ground, we have a semi-flat ground. I am a very cost-effective solution to parents looking for a birthday party solution. So I bring the game truck right to your home, and for 2 hours, you get peace and quiet because all your kids are going to be inside the game truck with their friends doing what the internet has separated them with. We have we're a first world country, so everyone has high-speed internet in their home. So gaming has become a shared experience that is experienced by ourselves. So the game truck puts everyone back in a space together, and now we have that couch co-op experience that we all grew up playing games like Tecmo Super Bowl and stuff like that. But for parents, I've got three. I've got a 7, 6, and a 4-year-old. I don't ever get silence unless I'm here. That's the only time I ever get silence. So for them, they get a chance to actually do adult things. You'll be surprised how many cupcakes and how many slices of pizza, how many beers and glasses of wine that parents hand me over the weekend because they're like, thank God, silence for once. And then they just tell their kids' friends, parents, pick them up at 2 o'clock and they don't even have to deal with them. The parents are usually there when the game truck is packing up and leaving. So for me, every time I have a birthday party for my kids, I'm $600 out. Like if my kids have done Sky Zone 3 times in the last 3 years. And it's $600 every time I go out. The game truck is $375 for 2 hours. I bring everything. You just tell the kids to show up.
Wow, that's amazing. LJ, I want to flip to you. So talk to me a little about the Pioneers founding story. Like, how did Pioneers start? And then I got a follow-up question for you after that.
Yeah, no. Pioneers was founded in 2019, July of 2019. So we're coming up on our 3-year kind of anniversary, which we actually have an official Pioneers Day. I think Sam over there went and picked up the proclamation from the mayor's office.
Congratulations.
Appreciate
well
that.
Done.
Thank you. And Pioneers came about. So let me kind of rewind a little bit and give a little bit of background on myself. So I want to say when I was around 15, 16 years old, I had always played wagers and competitive tournaments and things like that in Call of Duty. And then I started doing some coaching and I was like, I really love this stuff. I can't stop doing it. So it's just like, I got to find a way to do it. And I was a football player at the time as well. So I didn't have as much time to be like a pro player or anything. So I'm like, maybe I should just start up a brand or work for a brand and maybe that'll be a little less time consuming. So I worked for a few different organizations at 15, 16 years old. One org flew me around the country a couple of times, and I did some marketing for them at Call of Duty events. So I went to Anaheim. I've been to Fort Worth. And then it was weird because my mom, she's like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you flying around?" Like, and obviously I have to get permission from her, but eventually got to the point to where it was my senior year at high school, and I really just wanted to take a chance on starting a brand, so that summer after I graduated, I'm like, I'm really going to go and do this. I was at my college, I was playing college football and I had a lot of downtime because my classes were over at so early in the morning. So I had so much time before practice. So, just started brainstorming different names and trying to find the right designer for branding and things like that. Eventually got it down. And had a few family friends. Sam, he's out there right now. Our parents work together, and that he owns a marketing agency. So I'm like, let me hit up Sam. Like, I know he's going to do some great work for the videos and stuff that I need done. And we ended up working together. He helped me. He created the whole intro video to the brand back then, and it just made a lot of sense just for us to work together. So brought him onto the founding team, as well as our chief of operations. Now he's in Denver's Alex Laughlin, and Sam actually owns that marketing agency with our current CEO Mark Josie. So we just all kind of came together, and it made a lot of sense to bring like-minded people that wanted to learn more about the esports industry into it. And for me, I needed to learn a lot more about marketing and how to run a business and what a P&L was, all that good stuff, and these guys had that. So it made a lot of sense. And, here we are 3 years later, with, like I said, three pro teams across multiple titles, multiple content creators, and just doing big things for our community.
So I couldn't help but think when Multi-Studio was up here in the session before you guys, this is an architecture town, right? This is, especially sports architecture. It's the top traded sector in Kansas City. Drives more GDP into the region than any other individual industry. And so I couldn't help but think about what you guys have on the website right now, the program you just launched with Populous around the NFTs. But that's envisioning a physical state. It's not just the NFT portion of it. It's actually helping people understand what a physical manifestation of the Pioneers could look like in terms of a professional facility. Talk to me a little bit about that campaign, how that started, and kind of how you guys envision that.
Yeah, so we've had a relationship with Populous for a while now, and they're awesome people, and they're super, indulged into the esports industry. They work with a large amount of different orgs, and so since they're based here in Kansas City, it made a lot of sense for us to work together. And our NFT, there's a few different steps to it. But basically it starts with this your character. That's the first NFT. That's the first stage of it. And then, as you progress, as you obviously keep buying different, the different stages to it, you eventually get to go into this arena in the metaverse, and the arena is the home of the Pioneers. And, you can go into this arena, and you can go up to some of the monitors. And so, when you go up to the monitors, you can watch some of our pro teams play. You can watch our content. You can do a variety of different things in the stadium. But the overall vision of it is just to show people what we could have here in real life here in KC one day, and be that major esports destination that we want to be.
That's amazing. So going back to the true today's physical environment, the facility side of this thing, the representative from the Kansas State Department of Commerce was here today and mentioned that you guys were going to be doing a panel. And the question I got was, I mentioned Level Up at Hy-Vee Arena, and he goes, "Well, wait, they're in Overland Park, right?" And I said, "Well, I don't know if they're still there, but I know they opened up in Hy-Vee Arena." So I jogged out to the website really quick and I took a look, and I couldn't help but notice there was Hy-Vee Arena, but then there was also a couple coming soon like spots related to that. So what can you tell us about the coming soon portions of that? Or maybe more importantly, what's the vision for the placemaking aspect of this from a Level Up perspective?
Yeah, I can't give you, unfortunately, I can't give you too much more information.
Come on, we were looking for some breaking news,
exactly.
Dude. Come on.
Outside of Level Up is expanding into more cities very, very soon. This quarter, we will announce 2 more locations. This is all being done without outside investment as well. This is all just internally we're able to expand, which is very exciting, in this industry to be able to expand without having to seek outside investors. I'm not saying we aren't looking, but we are able to expand without that. And the sector that we are going into, we believe, is going to help solidify the pipeline to from being an amateur esports enthusiast or player to a more professional player, and help solidify that pipeline from, that path to pro pipeline that everybody kind of looks for. So very excited. the announcements will definitely be out by the end of the month. Yes.
I was hoping we could compete with this $4 billion Tesla battery plant that was announced today. I don't know if you guys saw that in DeSoto, Kansas. So, but we'll wait to see what the news is coming up.
Yes, we are very. I almost want to just pull the trigger, but I know I shouldn't. So
Yeah. Fair enough. That's probably a wise decision. So as I was like doing a little bit of research, looking at the websites, I couldn't help but notice, it's not just about the players. It's not just about, for someone who's not a gamer specifically, there's a lot of other career paths. There's a lot of other jobs that are created in what you guys are doing. I couldn't help but notice all the employees, like the pioneers, the various job titles and people, content creators, those types of things. Abdul, talk to me a little bit from your perspective. When someone is thinking about career pathing, you guys have all talked about youth. You've all talked about youth engagement. You've all talked about some of these, the crossover between sports and technology. Talk to me a little bit about like how somebody should be thinking about career pathing in this industry beyond just being a gamer.
Yeah, so there really isn't a college within the university that doesn't have an opportunity within the esports industry. Every discipline of post-secondary education is going to come with some laterally transferable skills that you can apply to the esports industry. So I am a K-State alum and I study computer science with my minor in leadership studies. I don't code at all anymore. My current role is Chief Business Development Officer for Unified. I project manage our sales team. So it's all sales and numbers for me now. But it comes from my bootstrapping of businesses like Local Legends, where I had to figure out how the community works so I could actually create a product that the community would like to purchase. And in the esports industry, no matter what you know, even if you have an MBA, you still have to know the players before you can create anything for them. The players do not care about any of our companies. They are loyal to the titles that they play, and they're going to play with whoever provides them the most authentic the most authentic and enjoyable opportunity that they can find. So, Lord forbid, whether we all end up hating each other today, the players can still decide not to like any of us. So this is why we try to work together to make sure that we're providing something that they desire. But when it comes to career opportunities, whether you're in business, you're in production, you're in operations or sales or marketing, the same skill sets that you're using there are going to apply to the esports industry. So content is content. Whether you're creating videos to show folks how to do hair, or you're putting Legos together with your kids, or you're doing skill challenges and trick shots in a shooting game. At some point, you got to learn how to actually create the content. And you have folks like the amazing folks over at Social Apex that are killing the scene with it here locally. The skill sets that they have learned, if they're applying to the esports industry, they're able to apply them for companies like Charlie Hustle as well. Laterally transferable skills. Even this, public speaking is not usually a strong suit in the esports industry unless you're a broadcaster or a journalist. But you do have to learn how to speak to large groups like this to actually tell your story and tell the value of it. And I've learned from my partners that either you go try to learn it yourself or the industry is going to force you to learn it. I'm just fortunate that from my fraternity background or my leadership studies minor, I've had plenty of opportunity to sit on panels and have conversations like this. So when it comes to getting into opportunity, I just feel comfortable in it.
Same question, LJ. So talk to me about like how someone thinks about, so when I think about the Pioneers, is it the same way a kid thinks about the Royals and baseball? Is it the same way that a kid thinks about the Chiefs, or is there different ways to engage from an employment path perspective in a career? And I guess even with the Royals or the Chiefs, like you can work in the front office, you can do a lot of different things. Is that the same way that you think about, career pathing for Pioneers?
Yeah, I think that's actually the best way to explain it is that's honestly the best way for, the casual gamer or the average person that doesn't know about gaming. That's the best way for them to kind of understand it is if you compare that to, align that with the traditional sport. So yeah, it's a lot like, your chief. I'm our chief gaming officer. So, what I'd like to tell people, I'm the Brett Veach of esports. I'm working with our director of esports, Eddie. And we bring in our teams, we recruit the teams. We'll sit in on their practices. We'll analyze, we'll evaluate. We've been doing that for the last week, 6 hours a day. It's crazy. It's a lot of work that goes into it, and it's time consuming. But yeah, as far as, job opportunities and what there is, it starts at the front office. You've got your CEO. I know a lot of sports teams call it their presidents, and, there's different titles. I know some people here have probably never even heard of a chief gaming officer, but it's a role in esports. There's job opportunities that range from, graphic designers to producers to broadcasters. You don't have to be a player. You don't even have to play a game. You could watch it and understand it. You could probably broadcast it or produce it. You've got game developers. You've got a range of job opportunities. And, as this industry expands, we want to continue to raise awareness for those job opportunities. That's why we've, created partnerships with, the Boys and Girls Club of Kansas City. And, we do community events down there with them. And, I've talked to classes at KU, and I talked to all the USD 500 schools because we want the up and coming generation to really understand that they can use some of their general skills to be a part of this industry. And so that's also another reason why it's great that, guys like us on this panel right now work together, because at the end of the day, it benefits everybody's, mission here. So
I love your point about the broadcasters. We all know there's broadcasters in traditional sports today that have never laced up a pair of cleats. So, fair, right? I'm thinking about how much time we have left here. I want to ask each one of you, what is it about the future of esports and specifically kind of what you're doing that excites you most? Like, where do you see this going that really kind of gets your juices flowing and gets you guys excited about where things are headed? Stu, we'll start with you.
Yeah, for me, it's the focus and the time and effort that we're putting into kind of that next generation of gamers, providing them the access, providing them the opportunity, providing them places to play and learn and grow in the space and learn about all those job opportunities that everybody just spoke about. Just real quick on that, it's interesting to see kind of the shift over the last 5 years in the industry of people coming in with a passion for esports, but maybe not the skill set for some of those jobs. And we're starting to see that shift where that skill set is now coming in. They've gotten the degree or the skills in other forms, and also have that passion. So that's been a neat shift that I've seen over the last 5 years. But showing that to those kids that esports needs accountants. Numbers are numbers. That's for me is one of the easiest kind of synergies between the two is like all those normal jobs esports needs, that as long as you have the passion for it, that's where all those things align. So yeah, for me, I'm excited about that next generation and what we're doing for those kids as they look for college opportunities, or they look to go pro, or they look to look for a career that they can align themselves with in esports, and just providing that for them.
My focus is on diversity and inclusion. So in the sense of lowering the barrier of entry and providing opportunities for all. So I just got back from St. Louis, Missouri last week. I was fortunate to be able to work with Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Their Guide Right program turned 100 years old. This is the oldest, most successful mentorship program for minority youth in the world. We had 600 Kappa Leaguers, what they call them, playing in their first ever full-scale esports competition at SLU, where they got to compete in games like Call of Duty, Fortnite, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Madden, and NBA 2K. The industry had started where there wasn't many opportunities for Black and brown and women in the space. So this is going to be an opportunity where we finally have lowered the barrier of entry so that some of the brightest minds, most talented individuals in the world have the same opportunities that everyone else does. and this is important to me because the way that the industry is set up, what is considered as a competition grade PC is usually a PC that's over $1,000. And in current day and time, most parents and guardians cannot provide that for their kids. We're more so Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, Xbox players. But for the titles that are considered true esports, unless you're playing Legacy Call of Duty or something like that, a lot of those titles are played on PC. So a lot of the black and brown youth that across the nation don't have opportunities to be great. And esports is like tennis. If you can't afford to play tennis, you can't be good at tennis. Just like golf, the same way. So doing that with organizations like that, as well as working with the USC 259 school district in Wichita, Kansas, they're the first school district in the entire nation that every school has a dedicated esports program. So within the next 5 years, Wichita, Kansas is going to be pushing out some of the greatest esports athletes that the world has ever seen. It's like basketball. There's a basketball court on every corner. So there's a hooper on every corner. And esports will end up going to be the same way, because I know a lot of us middle-aged gentlemen and ladies in this room that play.
I represent that statement, by the way.
Middle-aged, upper 30s, lower 20s, and lower 40s. We'll
All right, well, you've just like knocked me out of the
Yeah.
class. I appreciate that.
Well, to be fair, the esports industry has shifted to where the mass majority of players are going to be 36 and below, but the age demographic goes from 16 all the way to 36. So we're now seeing that those parents are now having these amazing shared experiences with their children. So just like how we paint the picture of a father throwing a baseball with their son, now we got a father playing Rocket League with their son. Well, my goal is to make sure that while I have this power that I have in the esports industry, that folks that look like me, sound like me, have the same opportunity to be successful. Because I don't know who I'm gonna work with in the future, but I want to make sure that the brightest minds and most talented individuals in the world have the same chance. So that's really my goal, is providing opportunities, connecting some of the brightest, most talented organizations and companies in the world to force them to work together so that everyone can do great things.
Love that. For me, I think Stu and Abdul hit it on tip with DEI initiatives, and just we all want to see esports grow. I think for me, those are things I do care about too, and those are huge, especially DEI initiatives. Being a kid that grew up not really having anybody in the industry that looked like me, it was like, it's a confidence boost for a guy like me or Abdul, or whoever that's underrepresented in this industry, to see somebody that's that looks like them or speaks like them or comes from the same background. It's super important. So appreciate you guys touching on that. Another thing for me is just the economic outview on how gaming is looked at. Most people think the competitive gamer is the guy that lives in his mom's basement. He's overweight, he's unhealthy, and gamer health and fitness is another thing that I care a lot about as well, and I'll touch on that. But just the outlook on gaming from society, and even from like parents. Like my mom, she didn't believe in this stuff until I started making money, or until an org is sending me to a different state to do something for them. They don't believe a lot of that, and it's to the point to where there's 15-year-olds around the world that are making $100K a year plus, $1 million plus, and it's crazy to even think that they're just at home playing Fortnite or Rocket League or whatever it is, and so just seeing it being more normalized in our country and in our community is a huge priority for me, and I care about that a lot because I dealt with a lot of that, and the gamer stigma is still alive, and definitely want to put it into that. And then, from a health and wellness perspective, I feel like gaming is one of those things that a lot of people run to escape their real life problems. And, that's what it was for me for a really long time. You get home, you can turn on your game. You can choose to play with people if you want, but you can sit there and game for 12 hours by yourself if you want. If you just need to, take a mental debrief and really just disconnect from everything else around you. And I think that that's a real thing. And because of that, with Kansas City Pioneers, for all of our pro players, we have a mental performance coach. We have a sports psych who meets with our players one-on-one and has, team sessions to make sure that, their mental well-being is being taken care of, and we can do what we can to help them. And so just really promoting gamer health is another thing that I really want to focus on, and that we're focusing on with the Kansas City Pioneers as well.
That's very cool. That's very cool. So you guys were, as I listened to you, you guys were doing NIL before traditional sports were even like worried about that or even thinking about it. Like, it's just been something that's been embedded in what you've been doing since the very beginning, right? Like, people have been able to make money based on their performance at all levels, right? There's no differentiation between that. So I used to be vice president of product at Sprint, and so went through multiple evolutions of building networks. And every time we built a new network in law, I was part of the team that launched 2G, right? Not to age myself or date myself. I think there's a couple wireless people still in the audience. That's fine. And so our challenge every time we launched a new network was describing the value of a new network to the average consumer, right? Like, because they don't care about speeds and latency and some of those types of things. And I think the reason I bring that up and I think about that is, I think you guys are all on the forefront of Web 3.0. Like, you got, like, esports is going to be the industry that leads us into the metaverse, that leads us into Web 3.0 in a practical way that the average consumer can start to see what that is and start to see what that means. Is that something that you guys talk about, think about, or is it just kind of, it's bigger than, you're just doing what you do and you're just going to drive into that space?
I think just very simply, it's esports is, especially what we're doing, is both a marathon and a sprint at the same time. Esports is such a evolving and adaptive environment that as a company and as an organization, you have to be as fast as you can to keep up with the changes of it, as well as making sure that you're setting yourself up for the long run as well. So it's both ends of the spectrum as far as that's concerned.
Virtual reality is going to be our mechanism of entering the metaverse. Esports is going to be what keeps the metaverse relevant. It's going to be the entertainment. It's going to be the personality and everything that everyone desires, because we already live in that space. And the individuals who are already thriving in the esports industry are going to be our new celebrities. Esports lives on Twitter. It lives in Discord channels, and that's how folks who are going to be moving towards this new generation of internet, as well as entertainment, are going to continue to thrive. Without esports, even with organizations like Meta making conscious efforts to invest into this space, or Microsoft, both of them are going to have major streaming and gaming platforms that support it. From Microsoft's constant major acquisition of publishers, as well as Facebook Gaming trying to rival Twitch as a broadcasting network.
I'm anxious to see who's going to have the best halftime performers. Is it going to be Spotify and their new entrance into the metaverse with virtual concerts, or is Jay-Z actually going to step up and also be running halftime shows virtually as well?
It might be T-Pain, because how well he's doing in the esports industry right now. So.
Fair enough. Well, guys, thanks again for spending some time with us. Thanks for sharing kind of what you guys are doing here in Kansas City. We're all rooting for you. We're all rooting for, kind of what you guys are growing here. Fascinated to see how you're driving people into the city from a tourism perspective, how you're employing people, and the rapid growth of job creation that you guys are doing. And I appreciate the stigma concept, or the stigma comment that you made, and hopefully, that continues to improve in terms of what you guys are actually producing from economic value here in Kansas City. So thanks for your time. Thanks for sharing your perspectives with us. And hopefully you guys will come back and share as we continue to grow what we're doing here.